Life in the islands fringing the Antarctic Peninsula is abundant, a place of seemingly endless variety. The whole region is richly biodiverse, a living example of how things are, pretty much free from the influence of man. A place to breed, feed and grow. Its pristine oceans full of marine species, including more than a dozen types of whale. But getting to see the astonishing wildlife here is by no means straightforward. The weather makes everything a challenge. Bit of a swell on today. It's gusting 40 to 45 knots. We've made very good progress in the night. We're now back in the Antarctic Sound, hoping to get to Hope Bay, which is where there's an Argentine research station, so we want to visit that. There's also a colony of about 100,000 Adelie penguins. And then, by radio, the Argentine base says the winds have become impossibly strong.
They say now they have 60 knots for wind. 60? Very windy. It's just there.
So our mission is aborted, and we have to wait another 24 hours before making landfall on Penguin Island, near the reasonably accessible tip of the Antarctic Peninsula. A colony of chinstrap penguins share territory with a large group of fur seals, one making the most of the comfortable feathers of the molting juveniles. Of course, the environment where these magnificent animals, this wildlife, is living is incredibly fragile and incredibly delicate. And there's all sorts of threats that they're up against, from climate change to krill fishing. And then, of course, there's this, tourism. And the tourists come here to the islands close to King George in their masses. Some are prepared to pay top dollar to have the Antarctic experience.
There are some pressures that come from tourism. So in the background we have a 200-person tour ship. The number of tourists coming down here, say at the beginning of the 2000s, was somewhere around 4,000 or 5,000 a year. We're now over 30,000 people a year.
2 days later we arrive at Hannah Point on the southern edge of Livingstone Island. Here another colony of chinstrap penguins, healthy and in good shape. They overlook a group of gentoo penguins. There's the distinctive beak of the southern giant petrel in its young. There are elephant seals, all different species, side by side on a grand scale. But across the continent, the pressures are building.
It's crazy pace of change, and at the moment, colonies like this one seem to be doing okay, but all it takes is one bad year, and we saw that in the East Antarctic last year. A penguin colony collapsed, only 2 chicks born, and so the pace of change is so quick, we don't want to add additional threats, things like fishing, which is gradually expanding.
Antarctica is still in pretty good shape, but it's apparent this unique landscape needs to be very carefully managed as multiple threats begin to loom on the horizon. Nick Clark, Al Jazeera, Antarctica.